started this small team and you have gone to an IPO journey last couple of years. Can you just tell us what happened during your early days and what made you to go for IPO?
Well, I think the turning point where I decided the IPO was when we pitched for a deal, and we were technically number one, or at least we were told we were technically number one, and we were pretty sure that we would close the deal because at the level of interactions that was just happening prior to the final decision being made. That was a very big account for us. Well, long story short, we lost the deal, and simply because what I was told was someone in the committee asked this question: "Who's this company? Never heard of them. Will they be able to handle our account? We're such a large account, and I don't think that they have the capability or the ability to manage us." I think that was the turning point when I said that, look, if we want to deal with big brands, if you want to deal with the big boys, if you want a seat at the table to have a conversation with them, you got to appear big. And that was the turning point where I said, look, we have to work towards rebranding ourselves, right? Repositioning ourselves, and maybe have a greater vision of, maybe IPO would probably give you that credence, that respect, and most importantly, a seat at the table to have a conversation.
Was it a difficult conversation with the team, or you need to convince them a lot, or was there any pushbacks?
I think there were, obviously, I think with any small organization, I've had corporate background, but the people with me didn't necessarily have that same background. And they understood our IPO compliance a little bit more different from my vantage point. So obviously there was fear, there was tension, definitely, and the whole idea of should we not, and then of course COVID came right in between, and in fact we started the IPO process right in the midst of COVID. All interactions with the authorities were online, and it was interesting because I don't think any one of us had gone through that period where due diligence was being done online and stuff like that. But yeah, what was supposed to happen, the original plan was maybe 2023, 2020, maybe 2025, we would look at IPO. That quickly accelerated by in 2021. We said no, we got to do it, and like I said, the reasons behind that accelerated the story that I mentioned about losing the deal. That accelerated our plan. I said, hey, look, we've got to do it now.
Why did you lose the deal?
Well, ultimately it was that. It's just that we, the perception was that we were not big enough to handle that account.
So
in that program.
Yeah. But were you convinced that you will get this IPO? Or were you 50-50 that you had some doubts along the way?
I think we definitely did. I think bulk, a lot of the pre-IPO work revolves around, and I speak to any merchant bankers, they will tell you, when they prep you up for an IPO, they will say, hey, look, you've got to sort out your house in order first, right? And that means, doing the internal control reviews. And that is often an obstacle for a lot of organizations. But I'm blessed because from the background where I come from, we've run the company very prudently with a lot of governance from the time I started it, number one. And number two, also the fact that the business that we are in BPS, requires you to have a lot of governance, especially when dealing with data. So even by the time we even decided that we do the IPO, we had ISO certifications in different fields. We had PCI DSS certifications already, and that sort of gave us the discipline to run the organization with a lot of governance. That is something that the industry needs, with or without the IPO. So that gave us a lot of strength, because even the people who reviewed our internal controls, they had a few observations that we needed to fix, but nothing of critical nature. So that was very quick. It was done very quickly. So the process of getting ready for the IPO was very quick. Simply on the basis that we had all the internal controls in place even before we started the process.
So when you say you lost a big deal because you were not big enough,
Yeah.
how not big enough were you at that stage? What's the size?
I think we were at that time probably about 500-600 people strength. Yeah, probably about that. We are now about 2,000 plus people. And with some recent deals happening, we soon move from 2,000 to 4,005 people. That was then, and that was the size, and we were back then.
Maybe we can go a bit early stage, right? How do you get to the 500 stage? How did it all start?
Well, it started in I'll go back a little bit, probably back to 2014, 2015, where I stumbled upon a technology that was known as, I think, was a human loop automation in Singapore. And later on in 2018, it's now known as RPA. All of us know it as RPA, robotics process automation. But back then we didn't even call it RPA in Malaysia. And when I saw that technology in Singapore, I realized that, and there was tremendous potential for the BPO space with automation. Why? Because I think, if you look at traditional BPO, the traditional BPO was built on the premise of two things. Number one, scalability, right? The ability to scale. And of course, in our case, there's also the whole idea of being able to support multilingual support. Malaysia as a country today supports 53 different languages and dialects. And that also gave us a little bit of credence in how we compete with the rest of the world. And of course, the second thing and the most important thing was also cost arbitrage or labor arbitrage. So that was the key thing that was driving the BPO business. But we had a problem with dealing with scalability. Our population size is only 30 million. We can't scale up, right? Us with 2,000 seats today, we are one of the biggest in the country, but take us and place us in countries like Philippines or in India. We are small, tiny fish swimming in a large ocean, right? Because their BPOs, 20,000, 30,000 is normal. So there was one thing that we couldn't compete was scalability. We couldn't scale as fast as we could. But while we had the ability to provide at that point at least some amount of labor arbitrage or cost arbitrage, we were able to be a multilingual hub for the world. But scalability was always a question. And here comes automation that says, promises that, hey, you are able to deliver more with less. And that was crucial for a country like us to compete in the BPO space. Automation was, I saw that as something very, very crucial, because that's the only way we can compete. We can't produce enough headcounts, but can we do more with the same number of headcounts? So that gave me the inspiration to get into that business and say, and of course, yes, as you said, I did accountancy, but 10 years of that and 10 years subsequent to that, I spent a lot of time in the technology field, and hence my affiliation or attachment to technology, and that's always intrigued me. And being able to bring technology into this business, which was traditionally headcount-based, labor-led, gave me the inspiration to say, hey, look, this is something that I wanted to do. And that gave me the confidence to take the leap of faith to start this business back in 2020, after subsequent to that, 2016, 2017. But a lot of resistance. So I moved on. So we obviously saw the market here was too small. In fact, some of the first POCs were done in Singapore rather than in Malaysia, and successfully. It's only subsequent to 2018 when the market saw the potential, and I think also the government agencies felt that there's no way we're going to fight this wave. We've got to embrace it. Was when we came back and then began to really implement a lot of automation work, a lot of technology work in this part of the world, and especially in Malaysia.
Right. I have more questions now, but let's keep that aside. But you said you would have
told too much.
So let's talk about you being an accountant, and then you had this idea to become an entrepreneur. Was that a difficult jump?
I've never considered myself an entrepreneur. Maybe an accidental entrepreneur. Never did I. In my mind, a definition of entrepreneur is somebody who is 20s, 30s, who's already thinking about I want to build a business and I'll build a small business. That's my interpretation, and not necessarily the interpretation of the world. And therefore, I don't fall in that category. Right, but I think one thing led to another, and I have become, like it or not, an accidental entrepreneur. But there was never the thought that right from an early age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur of that sort.
But what triggered you to leave 9 to 6 job?
I think one thing was very clear was that. I told myself even when I was with one of the big fours at the early stage of my career was that I wanted to learn a trade by the age of 30 at least, and I didn't see myself doing audit or compliance work. I enjoyed it, but I felt that also that it had a finite timeline to that, and I wanted to learn a trade, and technology had always intrigued me from a very young age. At the age of, I think at the age of 15, I already started learning basic programming and DBase2 at school. I was blessed that we had our school had a computer club, and I was very intrigued with technology already at a very early stage, but never got a chance to study technology. So then after accountancy, yes, then I got involved with tech. I was very clear that I wanted to get involved in a technology organization. So joined them as a vice president of finance, and then eventually moving up to management and running operations. And that's where I really got involved in technology and the whole entire ecosystem.
You spoke about leap of faith. That is something very deep and something bold that you have taken a step, right? Walk us through what this leap of faith means to you.
What is leap of faith? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can define what is that leap of faith. I think it's. I always believe in timing, and things. I've never been someone that would force the issue. That has never been me. I've always believed that things happen for a right reason and happens at the right time, and that opportunity came right in front of me, and I just had the urge and the feel that this was the right thing to do. It definitely wasn't an easy move, being when you study accountancy, one of the first things they teach you in the first week. Is I think the 7 principles of accountancy. One of it was prudent. It's very different from if you're familiar with Robert Frost's poem, right? 2 roads diverge in the woods, and he took the one less traveled. But the whole concept of being prudent is to take the road most traveled. And at a very young age, you are already trained that way. That when in doubt, always go with the crowd. And to get to move and to break away from that shell has been a constant struggle even for me, even until today, because that's my training, that's my background, that's how that molded me in my formative years. But the role of an entrepreneur today is very different. You take the road less traveled, and always having to find that balance has been a struggle. But I think that also gave us the discipline to how we run the business. From the time I started my business till the time we went for IPO, we had zero gearing, no borrowings. And that's the discipline in how we ran the business. It wasn't about making money and enriching ourselves first, but it was always putting back into the business to grow the business. And that was our DNA. That was the fundamental of how we wanted to run the business. So we actually went through IPO, up to the point of IPO, gearing zero. And that's how I run the business. Very, very prudent. I won't say risk adverse, but very prudent the way we run it. And we take very, very calculated risk.
See, when it comes to leaders and leadership, they're very focused and very persistent about their goals. Right? But in moving towards that journey, towards their goals, they always find themselves in many challenges. Some are manageable challenges. Some are very difficult to manage. Create doubts. Yeah. Is there any such challenge that you have come across?
Well, I think I could write a book in terms of the number of challenges I have gone through. Definitely, I think the journey of an entrepreneur is never easy, right? I always say it's a roller coaster ride. You go on a high and then you go on a low, and then you go on a high. There's never a constant high, Just when you think that everything is good, something hits you, and and there's a curveball that comes to you, and what do you do? I think there are many challenges that we've had, whether it's dealing with clients, whether it's dealing with people. I think the most difficult part is always dealing with people. We have 2,000 plus people. We started with about 50 people. Today 2,000 people. I think finding the right leaders is always very important. It's always very crucial. There are times that we have made many mistakes. We feel that we've got the right candidate. I think it's different between a large corporate and a small organization growing and transitioning to become corporate, right? Sometimes the values of a small organization is very much comes from the founder, and then it goes down. And there's certain ways that you want the organization to run, certain cultures that you want to run. And then bringing the right people is very important. If they don't share that culture with you, and then that culture dilutes. So we've had instances where leaders come who just don't subscribe to the same values. The way they engage with people, for example. And this generation dealing with people is very different, right? You talk about work-life balance. You talk about respect. I remember the days when I started working, and I'm sure you were in one of the big fours as well. You'd have heard stories of how partners would throw files out of the room, and I'm sure you've heard of that. We all come from that generation, but it's unheard of today. It's not even. I won't say even unheard. It's not acceptable today, right? But then how do you then, as you expand, and when you bring in people, how do you make sure that they also fit into the culture and assimilate into the culture? So it's tough because especially now as we grow even bigger, the management team from 2-3 people, today we have 100 plus people in the management team. It's always trying to find the right people, who share the same DNA, and very often we get it wrong. So that remains to be the big challenge.
Talking about technology,
yeah.
You're very focused on getting technology onto your processes, etc. How much of technologies that you have actually bought off the shelf? Because I read that you also build your own technologies.
Yeah.
So what's the balance like?
I think we I always I give this example, right? There are two routes: either you lease or buy a car, or you own the manufacturing plant, right? Right from the very beginning, as I said, the reason why we started the business, it wasn't like many other organizations who started a service business and then decided that, look, I'm going to embed technology in my services. It was the other way around. What inspired me to build this business was the technology, not the services. So technology has always been at the top of the pile, and then services along with it. We've always seen ourselves as a tech company rather than a services company or a BPO company per se. And that's been our DNA right from the very beginning, 2016. Of course, now it's more prominent, it's more profound because in the world of AI, in the world of automation, everybody's talking about digital. But when we started in 2016, that was the DNA. That, like I said, because scalability was the problem statement, and that was the problem statement that I was trying to solve when I went into this whole idea of creating this organization. So early on, we decided that there were some key things that we wanted to own and we wanted to control. Why? That control gives us, that ability to control our margins. It gives us the ability to have better say in how we want to develop the technology and change the technology. And one of the biggest problems we have today when we walk into organizations is that they have legacy systems. And how do you orchestrate and how do you work with these legacy systems? Needed a different kind of thinking without displacing those legacy systems. It's very difficult to walk into a new client and say, hey, look, you've got 30 different systems. I'm going to displace all of them and bring something new, right? Nobody wants to do that. But I think the gateway is building a tech stack that can work with all the legacy systems. So that was our key, and we said that these are some of the key areas that and technologies that we want to build. So today we build a BPS-led technology BPS-led technology that focuses on dealing with the complexities in our industry, right? So. So that's of course that said, it's very, very important for us at this stage as we also look at delivering a full-fledged service, end-to-end service, that we need a partner ecosystem as well. So we take a bit of a hybrid model. We build a huge technology ecosystem, partners that we work with, in the space of RPA or in the space of automation. And cybersecurity, but there are some key areas in when we put our technology into every layer of your operating model, we want to own. So today we have built 4 different proprietary systems: Daisy, Sage, Faith, and Kyra. If you notice, all of them have got an AI in the middle of the name. So the whole idea is that, number one, we wanted, I can tell you the version 1 was called Log, C-Log, right? It sounded so Star Wars-ish, and warish, and we all felt right from the very beginning that, there is a need to humanize technology. We don't want people to be afraid of technology. How do you humanize technology? And one of the things we said is, let's change the name. It shouldn't be something that is so techy and people are afraid of. Right? Let's give it a name. Let's give it a persona. Let's give it a personality. All these names, Faith, Kyra, Sage, they're all names of real people. But yeah, we picked based on the fact that they have a word in the 2 letters AI in the middle, which helps and reminds us all the time that we are embedding AI into all these technologies that we are developing today. So some very key areas in our space that we feel that we must own the plant. And there are other ancillary areas we feel that, we don't need to own the plant. We can lease, we can buy, and work with technology partners. So having that full ecosystem is very, very important for us.
So the interaction with the customers and your tech, where does that happen?
Sorry, what's the question again? What do you?
So you have your clients. Yeah. You have X number of clients, right? Medium size, big size, right? But then you have your tech. Then your tech kind of solves your internal back office, mid office, front office kind of solution. But then the tech also interacts with the client's tech. Yeah. So how does that?
I'll correct you a little bit. The tech stack that we build is a very DevOps model. We build based on the issues that the clients have. So we walk into a client, we do a business process, for example, a journey process mapping, where the customer goes through every part of his journey with the organization. And then we figure out where the pain points are, where the customers are having issues, what are the complaints, where are the complaints coming from, and then we figure out building a system or tech layer to solve that problem. With many organizations today, especially large organizations where they have 60, 70 different legacy systems, there is data everywhere and silos. So coming back to the point, as we move from traditional BPO to what people now call, some people call it digital-led BPS or generative GBS or digital GPS. There's so many names to this, right? But fundamentally, there are three things that is driving the change from what is a traditional BPO to a digital BPO or digital BPS, which is data, automation, and now intelligence. Everyone at every street corner is talking about AI, right? So how do you bring this together? And data, very often, data is the biggest challenge. Data sitting in different parts of organizations. You have a whole pile of data. Some you're aware of, some you're not aware that you have that data. But AI fuels on all this data. If there is no good set or clean set of data, AI doesn't work, doesn't function. So that's key. So today we walk into organizations, we try to figure this out. Where is the data? Are we collecting the data? Where is it sitting? How do we bring it to the front? Data that are hiding, because at the end, you're able to solve your customer's problem only by bringing this data forward. Right? So if you don't have data, then it's very difficult. So here's the fallacy, right? Everyone thinks that AI is a magic wand. It's a switch. I turn on, tomorrow it works. Right? And then you see today a lot of organizations, and now a lot of use cases are coming. A lot of failed use cases are being published. You never heard of this, but in the last 6 months, 12 months, as people embark on AI, a lot of even large organizations are pulling back. Their POCs never see the light of day. Yeah, or they scale back on the POC, it doesn't work. And because this is the fallacy, because we go into conferences, and when we listen to technology speak, and we see some of our competitors doing it, and we say, hey, let's adopt it. We'll do it. Let's get it done in 3 weeks, 6 weeks. But whether the organization is ready for it. So very often you see sometimes, just classic example is, you see with many organizations, they put a chatbot in front, right? But you will be talking to the bot for a good 2 or 3 minutes, or chatting with the bot, and ultimately it comes to the end of the conversations, which says, please call and speak to a live agent or a live person. So it's just an unnecessary process of, yes, I have a nice bot that works, right? You can speak to and say hello to, but it doesn't solve the problem. So does that improve your experience? I don't think so. And because most organizations just jump into, just say, let's do it. Let's just do it. But they don't realize that it's fueled by data. If your data is sitting in 5 different systems, and your bot is only connected to one system, and it's not able to capture other data sitting in the other system, it's not integrated, you don't have the information to empower the bot. And it's same also, if you talk to a live person, if you don't empower him to have that information, he's not able to solve your problem.
So what do you do?
So this is where we come in. We see what is needed, what kind of information is needed to solve a customer's problem. Right? Okay. Now that we know that these are the information, where can we get this information? Is it sitting in Department A? Is it sitting in Department B? Is it sitting in some the furthest part of the organization that nobody is aware of? Right? Then how do we bring that data back centrally, so that we can feed the people who are working on it? We can also, more importantly, feed the AI tool. So that's that. And it is a journey. It's not a magic switch to say that, I have AI today, tomorrow I can reduce my headcount to 30, 40 people. So how do you deal with that? On one side, you think that you have automated, you have done well, but at the other side, your customer is waiting for 2 hours or 3 hours. He used to wait only for 15 minutes when he spoke to a person, a live person. So obviously there's a broken chain somewhere. And this is where organizations like us go in. We just don't just implement a system for the sake of it. I always say technology, not for the sake of technology. There are times where you will need to put technology in front of a human being, and there will be times when you want to do it the other way around.
So recently I had a conversation with a group of friends. So one of them raised a problem with chatbots. I mean, real life experience dealing with the chatbot, right? So the Wi-Fi at home went down. So the person had to contact the service provider and say the problem, etc. But then he ended up getting an interaction with the chatbot. And he had to repeat the process a few times because he was interrupted due to meetings and discussions, phone calls, etc. Because the chatbot kept saying, "You've been away for 7 minutes. You've been away for 10 minutes. So you'll just restart the whole process again."
Yep.
So the end customer may have a different experience altogether.
Yep. Right. Because that's chasing KPI.
Yeah.
Because the ticket is open, and therefore, it's a unresolved issue. So they are hoping to close the case as fast as possible. But again, it's like to your point, right? It's just an endless loop that causes frustration more than satisfaction. So is that what you want to do? And it's very important when we jump into all this. The technology is available today. Every day something new. But does it apply to you? Will it work for you? Will it work in your environment? Given the systems that you have now or the legacy systems that you have now. So it's a journey, I say it's not something that you can just plug and play. It needs to transcend across the organization. You need to embed it into at different parts of your workflow, and it's not straightforward. I was traveling recently with a very prominent ride-hailing app, not in Asia, so it is a different app. And the driver dropped me at one point, and then made a full loop, and for whatever reason did not sign me off, and went a full loop and charged me for two rounds of the same fare. I couldn't speak to anyone. I kept being pushed to a bot that kept telling me again and again that no, you were in that right. You were in that right when I was not in that right. So I just gave up. I said, forget about the money. Right? But I would think twice again if I want to use that particular app. So it's you got to see whether technology is counterproductive to your means, to your end goal.
Yeah. Since we are on this topic of chatbots and RPAs, right? Where do you see these chatbots going? Is it like we already know it's not a end-to-end solution for everything.
No, it can be.
Okay.
It can be. It's not. It can't be. The problem is the back end. The chatbot is just the front engine. It's just the face, right? It's same with dealing with a human being. If you do not feed him or her with enough information, he's not going to be able to solve your problem, right? The problem with bots today, the technology is there, but one needs to understand that the bot needs access to different information at different times, depending on the different scenarios, to be able to solve the issue. Most of the time, when we deal with customer interactions, 80% of the time people complain about the same thing, right? It's a repetitive cycle. So it's not too difficult to be able to understand what kind of information do you need, right? To be able to solve those problems.
You spoke about bringing technology and reducing headcounts and employees. Right? How has this been positive to a company like yours? Where do you see the gain?
Well, I think obviously there's always, with automation comes improvement in margins, obviously, right? I think there's two things when you talk about automation today, right? For organizations like us, yes, obviously, as I said, when you do more with less, you will see your margins improving, right? And here's the thing: people talk about AI washing today as well, just like greenwashing. People talk about AI washing, right? As a public company, you can't hide behind the narrative anymore, right? Your numbers speak for itself, and investors need to be very discerning also now, looking at not just as statements and, oh yeah, we are implementing AI or we are adopting certain technologies. It's not about adopting certain technologies. It's whether you embed technologies in all your workflows or in most of your workflows. And when you do that, you will see reduction in margins. Number one. Number two is that it's also a new revenue stream for BPS organizations like us, right? Because you will see that organizations that provide finance and accounting services, whether it's procure to pay or order to cash or accounts to report, right, are moving from what was a traditional transactional service to being able to provide business analytics and analysis. CX organizations traditionally involved in CX now looking at data annotation. So there are new revenue streams now as well for organizations like us with this technology. So it's just not, technology is not just looking at improving your margins, but at the same time, it's also looking at new potential revenue streams.
There's a Daythree way, some sort of a philosophy that you've built in. But then there's also a balance between your corporate matrix and your people matrix, right? How do you find this balance? Or is there a balance?
See, the Daythree way, it comprised of 5 key elements: our service values, which is empathy, trust, and passion on one side, right? And innovation and insights the other, right? And that 5 elements make the Daythree way. Empathy is, as you know, is always needed. I'll share how we sort of bring this together, right? And I said earlier, I alluded to the fact earlier that there are times when you put technology in front of people, and there will be times when you need to put people in front of technology. And we strongly believe in that. It's how do we bring technology and people together. I'll give you an example. If you are calling into your service provider and say, I need a copy of my statement for the last 6 months. I need a copy of my statement for the last 2 months, whatever it is. Or going back in time, there was a time when we wanted to change our password, we would call the help desk. Right? Today you don't do that. We're so used to forget password, email is sent to you, authenticate, you change your password. Do you need to speak to somebody to change your password? I don't think you need that, right? We forget our password and then we change, or we want a copy of our statement. If I can click a few buttons and get the email sent to me with all the 6 months, I'm very happy to do that. But if you're going on a holiday, you take a flight, you've got your children with you. Imagine that you're standing at the carousel and your bag doesn't arrive. Do you want to actually at that point in time talk to a bot? Do you actually at that point in time want to deal with an email? You want an instant answer. You want to pick up the phone and maybe lament, maybe express your frustration a little bit, get it off your system, right? And I always ask this question at that point in time: do you want to talk to a real intelligence, or do you want to talk to an artificial intelligence? The word AI, never forget the A is always artificial. It'll always be artificial. It'll never be real, right? So it is very important, in the work that we do, to identify this, because at the end of the day, if customer experience is the product. It's not a byproduct of something that you deliver. Your CX is your main product. That's what you are selling today. That's where the world is leading. So if you have a choice between two airlines, one is always only giving you bots to deal with, and you have an option with another airline, which would you go fly? You want that experience because you know in times of need, this guy, the other service provider will be able to help you better. So, so we always believe that and as we say, humanizing technology and these 5 values, it's embedding this into our service provision, and it's different for every organization. It's different for every different workflows, different for every process that we manage for our clients. Some will be highly enabled by technology and automation, and some we will advise them, no, it should not. And that's where our experience comes in. So again, going back to the fact, as I mentioned earlier, do not just take technology for the sake of technology and say, hey, okay, I've got a bot that's working for you. But you also got to identify, is it appropriate for the business and the service that you are providing? Right? If you are dealing with high value customers, if you are dealing with senior citizens, you might, as a business value proposition, you might say that, no, I'm going to provide premium service. I'm going to provide a more one-to-one service. And then maybe for the masses, you will say, oh, maybe no, we will probably let them speak to a bot first before, we can take them through another journey with a human agent. So these are things that need to be carefully crafted before you decide on technology. So the Daythree way is all about that. It's about, yes, we want to deliver empathy to our customers. Yes, people call in because there is a trust deficit with the brand now because I have a complaint about the brand. So how do I build that, rebuild that trust, right? There's passion. We want our people to show that we can go above and beyond, right? It's not just not trying to solve your current problem. Is there anything else I can do for you, right? And those are 3 core human elements: being able to deliver empathy, being able to deliver passion, right? And then repair that brand trust. Now, at this stage, I don't think any AI bot just yet can deliver that human part, empathy, trust, and passion, because it's always going to be artificial. And at least that's how I think. It's getting more and more real, yes, but there's no emotional connection. And then, of course, when technology comes in, we talk about how do we innovate, right? And how do we give insights to our customers? What is happening? What is the problem? We are the voice of the customers. So what is happening? Why are customers calling in? Why are customers interacting with you? What are their problems? Can we give them more insights? And not just customers, it could be stakeholders as well, right? What are they upset about? Or what are they happy about? What can we do better? And these are insights. So the Daythree way is about that, is bringing technology and humans together in 2 parts, right? To be able to deliver that service experience.
But then how do you balance the matrix? Say you have your KPIs, you have your shareholders in the board to manage driving numbers. Then you have people motivation, like you said, you have your emotion, your empathy, trust, and passion. Yeah. So managing this, it's like 2 sides of the coin.
Right. I think everyone needs to understand, and I think all of us are going through this period of having to invest heavily in technology, right? Of course, investors and shareholders can be impatient. They want quarterly results, right? Quarterly numbers to be good. But at the same time, from a management perspective as well, in my case, I wear 2 hats. I'm a shareholder, the largest shareholder in the organization, at the same time also the CEO. It's always about finding that balance, right? Yes, you want to deliver the profits that the shareholders and the institutions pressure you to deliver. But at the same time, you also have to have a longer term vision of, hey, if I don't invest, I will not be able to deliver the same kind of numbers in 2 years or in 3 years or in 5 years. But it is we are going through, I think all of us are going through this period where, most organizations are, need to invest. And Malaysia now has got the framework to take us towards an AI nation by 2030, right? I think next year, 2026, is supposed to be that crucial year where, there's always this, this finding this balance, right? I always say there's three phases to this, maybe four. The first one is always when you want to go through a change, and in any change management process, the first thing is acceptance, acknowledging the fact that you have to get to the bandwagon. If you don't automate, if you do not use AI in some of the works that you're doing, and if your competitors are, you'll be out of the game very soon. So that acknowledgement needs to take place first. If one feels that the traditional way is going to be the way forward, then they have to rethink, because at some point all of us will have to move in that journey. Most of us. Then it's about identifying your readiness and building your automation pipeline. And I alluded to that earlier, right? When you talk about building an automation pipeline, what does that mean? It's looking at what the data you have, whether you need cleansing, what is important. There's this concept of AI hallucination. That doesn't come from, it comes from the knowledge base of the organization, because the same knowledge base is probably written over 20 years or 15 years, written and rewritten by maybe 5-6 different hands. Put it into an LLM model, it reads differently. It's picking up sources differently. The same information, because the way it's written, right? So all that needs to be cleaned up so that you are ready, become consistent. Then you decide, this is my automation pipeline for the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, taking into account the database that you have, taking into account the knowledge base that you have in your organization. Then comes the phase where you really begin to invest. You won't see the immediate returns, right? And that's the period I think that we are going through as well, investing, building POCs, right? In picking POCs that really make sense and that really have a lot of value. Building the POCs and making it work, right? And that becomes a business case to extrapolate what you're doing. And then, of course, the final stage is then to really, that's where you really see the value, because then you are moving it across the organization, you are moving the POC across the organization, and that's where you begin to see that the real value. And what is the real value? Margins increase, cost to serve drops, cost of operation drops. Then you know that your automation is making sense. Then you know that you're going through this whole journey of digital transformation is working, and that has to be measured. And so KPIs, as you mentioned earlier, may not be the same KPIs as how we used to measure before, because you have now the other KPIs to measure. What is your cost to serve? What is your cost to serve? What is your time to serve? Right? And all this will eventually reflect on your margins.
I see in your website, you have videos where your people are having activities, having fun and all.
Yep.
How does that come into your matrix of measurement of people are actually happy doing their work?
So we do two things. Number one is that, as you know, we run quite a bit of customer management work within the organization. And 99.99% of the time when someone calls into or reaches out to you for help, they're already not happy. They're irate, they're not happy. So imagine you sitting in the office and being bombarded with negativity throughout the day, 6 hours, 5 hours. It's not an easy job. It's a thankless job. So it's very, very important to keep our people motivated. So yeah, you see that a lot in what we do. We've had people who have been abused, verbally abused. You see people who, we had a workshop post-COVID. I remember we had one workshop in the office, and that part of the workshop was getting people to write about their feelings and their thoughts and their emotions, what went throughout COVID. And on an anonymous basis, we gave them post-it papers to write down. And eventually all of that pasted it on the wall, and then you realize the pain that people go through, reading, walking past that wall and reading some of the notes were not easy for me. It was highly emotional to read some of those things. But I think sometimes we don't realize, we call into a service provider and we abuse them as if the whole world is crumbling, and we don't realize that it is not that person's fault. It's the organization, it's the system. But people still do that because, like I said earlier, right? You are waiting at the carousel. Your bags don't come. You want to shout and scream at somebody, and now people take all that. So it's very important that there's also an outlet for them in that organization. That that we spend a lot of time with them. Building all these activities, and so that it's just not dealing with difficult situations, but you come into office in a happy environment. And we do that a lot. And today we have linked a lot of those things that we, as an organization, we also look at our sustainable goals. We've identified something like nine of the sustainable goals that we want to subscribe to. And so we build our events around those sustainable goals, whether it's continuous learning, whether it's through charity and whatever we do, recycling. So all those things that we also bring those values into our engagement activities. And for every engagement activity we do, we also question, hey guys, what sustainable goals are we ascribing to when we're doing this? So there's a constant conversation as well happening in the organization. And then, of course, we roll out a survey twice a year to measure the level of happiness. So that's sort of, and then we have we stand about, I think, 85% or so, in terms of our happiness index. But what's more important is after the survey is also taking those feedback and then running workshops with them individually. Okay, what can we do better? What do you want more? What do you see that we can? How can we improve and push the numbers up? And over the last few years, we've been steadily moving up and pushing up those numbers. And that's a very, very important survey for us that we do twice a year in our organization.
Earlier in the session, you mentioned about challenges, mainly about people. And I would probably say one of the challenges probably is about attrition rate, managing your in and out, right? How is that being managed in Daythree?
This is why I think I think it's everyone knows in this industry, right? And there's always the first question: what's your attrition rate like, right? And that's where these engagement activities come in. They play a very important role. Is how you nurture them. We bring in people in their formative years. Some of them choose this to be their career of choice, and some of them say, no, this is not what I want to do. But how we manage that is that we have a very clear career path for them when they come and join us. The first 2 years, they may be front facing an agent. But then they have an option to move out to, whether to quality management or to become a trainer, and to many other parts of within the organization, or even a team leader, and move on to becoming a manager. So we have people who've been in the industry for 15, 20 years, and making a living out of it and doing really well.
Why the name Daythree?
Well, there's another famous organization that subscribes to day one. But I think for us is that, I think it's for me, Daythree is the future. And to get to the future, there are two things that you always need to know. Remember your past and know your present before you can move towards the future.
Very philosophical.
And so I'll give you a philosophical answer for now. and that's what we Daythree is about, moving forward, right? It's always understanding, and I spoke about many things about, your legacy systems, the past. I spoke about taking stock of what you have now, where your data resides, things that you want to do, day two, and Daythree is the future. And that is something that we subscribe to in the organization. That look, I said it in other ways and other forms earlier, right? Technology not for the sake of technology. You can't just take a technology tool and say, okay, I'm going to just put it up and just plug and play and moves on. If you do not understand what you did before, if you don't understand where you are now, you will never be able to deliver what is needed for the future. And that's our philosophy. Daythree, that's our philosophy.
In one of the articles I read, you did mention about, and you said if you do what you need to do in the right way, money will come. So is that part of your Daythree philosophy?
I think that's more my own personal philosophy. I've never been one that has gone after money or chased after money. And as I said, from the early days, right, when we started the organization, it's about putting the money back in the company rather than enriching ourselves, right? And that's all about doing the right thing, right? And that right thing is, I find that if you build the organization with integrity, with honesty, with humility, the investors will look for you. You don't have to be out there. Investors are always looking for good organizations, good companies. But I think if whatever you do is focused, or it runs on the premise that I want to make money, or I want to look for investors. It didn't work for me in that case. In my case, at least, the whole idea was, I think I'm just going to focus on what I'm going to do, right, and I'm going to get it done right, and I'm sure everything else will fall into place. And that's been my philosophy, and I think it still holds true until today. We've got a goal that we want to achieve. We want to get there. We're sure how we want to get there. And then you have people coming, and I think recently we also made an announcement about a new shareholder taking a substantial stake in our organization. And it's all about, it's a conversation that started in 2017, 2018, on, off. The focus, the eye was never on getting that done. But as I said, it's all about timing. It's all about the right place at the right time. And we continue to focus on what we feel that we are doing and is correct. And then people come to you and say, hey, look, I think it's a perfect time for us to come together and work together. So I am a firm believer of that.
Speaking of investors, see, when you went public, you definitely lose some amount of control, or significant amount of control, where you were controlling the company when you started off in a very significant way. What's the trade-off here?
I'm not interested in control. Control has never been at the back of my mind. I think that's never motivated me. Still doesn't motivate me. The idea is to build something big. The idea is, the story is, or the narrative is, a local company, small company, Malaysian company, wanting to go abroad, wanting to go regional. That's the story. And I realized that you cannot do it alone. And if you want to do it alone, then you can, but it's a longer process. Perhaps the journey may be much longer, but you need a good support system to make this work. And that's the narrative. Local company wanting to go become more international, and that requires partnership. So control doesn't matter.
So along your journey, I'm sure you definitely would have built a good relationship with your partners. You made a lot of friends. At the same time, you probably made some enemies with some group of people too.
Are we going towards that discussion?
Yeah. So is there any?
You're not going to ask me who are my enemies are.
No. Okay. I'm not going to ask you who your enemies are. But in that situation, how did you manage it?
It's just about staying true to your cause, we've always very sure that that we do things with integrity. That's been the premise of the organization right from the beginning, and that stems from the values that were passed on, by my parents: integrity, trust, and faith. And I try to embed that as much as possible in the organization that I run. In many ways, it's seen in how we run it, and that continues to be our DNA today. In the process, there are people who may choose to disagree with how we want to do things. But I think it's always important to stay focused and to be real, to say that, you want to go towards a certain direction, but without having to hurt others in the process. I think that's very crucial, very important, to be fair to everyone. And as long as, you're able to sleep at night, you say that, look, I've done the right thing, and sometimes as an entrepreneur, you come to decision points where you really don't know, what is right or what is wrong, what you should do, and I'm a person that perhaps don't rush into decisions, especially tough decisions. And I take a bit of time to ponder and let it simmer a little bit before I do make errors. You eventually have to make a decision. But, rational thinking helps, I suppose.
What about board and governance now, since you publicly listed, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of work in managing board, managing governance as well. How much of that work takes your time?
I think my work has changed, right, from the time I started the company and where it was, building to where we are. I probably knew every nut and bolt in the organization. It's a bit tough when, today you feel that, to some extent that you don't know the ground level stuff because, there's only so much time, and then you're also looking at other strategic things and what's going on. It's important that we have a second line, second liners, third liners, and I have a very strong team with me that runs the day-to-day operations. And of course, now the role has sort of evolved with stakeholder management. Especially now, quarterly reporting is like, quarters come so soon, and before you know it, it's already, this year is already fourth quarter. We are already coming to our fourth quarter. The year moves so quickly now with when you have a quarterly number to deal with. And then with all the compliance issues and all that, yes, it takes quite a bit of time. It does, but I think it's important to, part of becoming more corporate is also having the right team to support you, and that helps a lot.
Besides your organization, you're also involved in building the ecosystem.
Yep.
Your role in PICOM, and you recently launched a report with Minister launching it.
Yep.
Can you just share your role outside of office, and how does that help build this whole ecosystem?
But I think it's important to give back, right? We've been a beneficiary of the system. Being a MSC status or MD status company, I think it's important to also give back in other ways and other forms back to the industry as a whole. And at the end of the day, it benefits all of us. I think if Malaysia raises and elevates its own identity of branding, it elevates all local companies as well. I think it's very crucial, very important, number one. And my role in, whether it's in CCM or PICOM, and primarily in PICOM in the early years, was to build that relationship with all the government agencies, and that's where I got to know you as well, right? To build that ecosystem. I think it's very important that, one of the things that we've never looked at, number one, is, bringing not just the government, the industry, but also the academia together. And you see that in our recently launched midterm report as well, where all three parties are coming together. Some of these questions we had maybe 2-3 years, maybe 4 years ago, or before COVID. If somebody asks us how many people were working in this industry, or if I'm coming to invest in Malaysia, which corridor should I go to? Everybody seems to be saying that GBS in every corridor. We never had these answers, right? With evidence at least, evidence-based answers. So today we're working with academicians, we're working with the government to build this narrative that, how do we elevate Malaysia? So we launched the first report, GBS Malaysia launched its first report in 2022, July 2022. And I was privileged to work on that report, and again now on the midterm report that we recently launched, which you mentioned earlier. And you can see that we are heading in the right direction. Most important thing to note is that for the country, the revenue per employee has increased, right? And notably because most of the big organizations and BPS organizations have embraced technology, are slowly embracing technology. So we're moving in the right direction. But it's also a form for me to, I think I like research work because it forces me to also read. It also forces me to understand the context and background. And of course, it obviously helps me my day-to-day work as well. And I've always liked working with some of these initiatives because I think it helps all of us as a country, number one, and personally also my own development.
You are leading a public listed company. And what kind of legacy that you want to leave behind, and what kind of culture that you want to see for Daythree in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, I've never thought about leaving a legacy. The thought has never crossed my mind, and maybe not 5 to 10 years. Let's probably look at a shorter time frame, 3 years, maybe. I like to look at it in bits of 3 years. Things are changing so fast, right? I think obviously, the focus now is to elevate Daythree from not just a Malaysian player but a regional player, and that's where the focus is. And if you look at some of the recent announcements the public announcements that we have made, you see that we were already beginning to make strides into that area, being able to have a seat at the table with larger players, with regional players, and that's something that I'm looking forward to in the next 3 years, building the organization to beyond what it is now, primarily a Malaysian organization serving Malaysia and the immediate countries surrounding us. I think if at all, my role in the next 3 years is also now to elevate the next level of leadership in the organization. That's very crucial, and that's a personal commitment that I have given to the organization and to myself. Time is also time to elevate people who are much younger than me in the organization to take on the new roles. So that's going to be critical. That's going to be crucial, and I think that's where my focus will be in the next 3 years at least. One, to help us elevate us from beyond Malaysia and towards the region, and number two, be able to also have a good team of people. Our leadership team has grown from what was just 3 of us now to, I think, about 9 of us or 10 of us, and that team is growing much bigger, larger, and we're bringing different talents. We're injecting new skills, and hopefully be able to realize our vision in the near term.
To our viewers and listeners out there, what advice would you like to tell them?
Maybe I'll break that question into 2 parts. One is from a technology standpoint, right? We've always been focused on building solutions, not systems. And as I mentioned to you earlier throughout this podcast about when do you put technology in front of humans and when do you reverse it? It's ultimately, you don't want to work for the technology. You want the technology to work for you. You want to embed technologies into every level of your operating model. And especially now with you wake up every morning to new things, new technologies. We never spoke about LLM a few years ago. Today it is there, right? And open AI and stuff like that. And even more things, more and more things. The temptation is always to go and grab one of those technologies and say, oh, I've embraced the technology, I'm using it in my organization. But it is not the system, it's the solution. The focus at the end of the day has to be your customer, not the internal operations. Whatever you do needs to serve your end customer. And that needs to be measured, and that needs to be clear. So that's always been our focus as we, build Daythree. The focus is always looking at the journey and looking at what solutions we should build to be able to achieve our end goal and vision. I think that's that's perhaps something that I could share from a technology standpoint. And maybe on the personal side, from the leadership point of view, is again, it's about staying true to yourself. It's not the ego. You're not on an ego trip. It's about the humility. It's about being humble. And most importantly, a value which I cherish most is integrity. And those are key elements, I feel, and these are values that I hold close to my heart. And these are the values that I also transcend that into the organization. And we hold that very strongly. And I think everything else will fall into place as a result of that.
So Raymond, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed the conversation with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Raja. Thank you so much for having me.